Welcome back to the show as we continue our conversation on how Latinos are transforming the United States. Governor, let's look at Latino political power here in the United States. You mentioned that just a moment ago. Right now, the leading Republican candidate, or one of the leading Republican candidates, a man called Donald Trump, has made immigration a major issue in his campaign. And he's made some disparaging comments as well. But those comments aside, how will the Latino vote impact who eventually walks into the White House?
It's going to be key because, as we all know, even though there are 50 states, there are really about 10 battleground states. And in those battleground states, there are states such as Florida, Virginia, North Carolina, where more and more, Ohio, the Latino voters could sway the election one way or another. Actually, you mentioned earlier in 2000, it was the I-4 corridor where there's a large concentration of Hispanics that decided the 2004 and the 2000 and 2004 election that were close in Florida. They were not that close in 2008 and 2012. So again, this is going to be key. We're seeing it also at the state level. Some senatorial races, congressional races, and gubernatorial races, where we're seeing that the Hispanic community is deciding. It's a deciding factor, and it will continue to happen more and more often.
Enrique, I mentioned Donald Trump a moment ago, and there is a big focus on the immigration issue. Both Trump and others say that they want to build a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border to keep out Mexicans. He's also made disparaging comments about Mexicans and about Hispanics in general. Do you think this approach is racist, and how is it playing out in the Hispanic community?
There's no doubt it's racist. Like I said, I was born and raised here in San Diego, and the greatest leader that we've had here in California was not Cesar Chavez, rest in peace. It was actually Pete Wilson, because the former governor, he united us all against him, and he turned a purple state solid blue, which is what California is today. What Donald Trump is doing, he's doing that on a national basis. Hate words lead to hate actions. When he has made his racist comments, you get two people that are his followers beating up a homeless man in Boston. You get neo-Nazis doing the Heil Hitler sign at a rally in Alabama. And how is it that the Republican Party hasn't shut him down? This is shameful. You even get somebody like Jeb Bush saying hateful words like anchor baby. Hate words lead to hate actions. Freedom of speech is one thing, but not when people act on that freedom of speech and actually go out there and kill people, beat up people. What Donald Trump is doing is very, very scary. And what's even scarier is that a lot of those Republican voters are supporting him. He's going to hit his top. I hope he stays around till the very end, because that assures a Democratic victory. It'll assure it. The majority of the country will not tolerate that type of behavior, but he's gone on quite a while, a lot longer than most of us expected. Right. And it's very, very damaging, and it's hard to believe that other Republicans have joined him in the same type of language, in the same type of rhetoric towards Mexico, building a wall. That wall between the United States and Mexico is 700 miles. It's a third of the U.S.-Mexican border. It's killed 11,000 people. There's no legal way for these people to come in. There's no line for them to get into. And they throw this rhetoric out like, come in legally. Well, there's no legal way for them to come in. And the U.S. policies greatly influence this migration to the United States. Mexican migration is way, way down. Now it's the Central Americans that are the largest group. But let's have humane policies. And that's what what the Republican Party has exemplified. And Donald Trump is the leader right now in the Republican Party. And that's pretty scary.
Okay. Governor, you want to say something?
I disagree with what Donald Trump has been saying about immigration, but I also disagree entirely with what Enrique is saying, and let me explain why. There are 16 candidates for the presidency on the Republican side. Whomever is leading at this moment, who may not be leading next month, doesn't necessarily represent the views of the Republican Party, number one. Number two, there are only two Hispanic governors in this country. They're both Republican. There are only 3 Hispanic senators in this country. 2 of the 3 are Republican. Actually, there are only 2 Latinos running for president. Both are Republican. So to just say that whatever Donald Trump or any other candidate is saying is representative of what the Republican Party stands for is completely wrong. Secondly, to shut, if I may, I waited until you were talking.
I'll get you in a moment, Enrique.
Yes. Secondly, to say shut him down, This America. You can't shut people down.
Right.
The only way to do it is by voting. And that's why it's so important for the Hispanic community to participate in the primary season and later on in the general election. But there's the president who has actually kicked out of the country more Latinos in our history is Obama. And he's a Democrat. That doesn't mean that that represents Democrats in general. Yeah. I think we have to get over partisan politics and talk about policy.
Okay, Enrique, I'm going to give you a chance to respond to that, and then I want to get to Laura. But go ahead, Enrique.
Well, sure. Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio do not represent the Latino community. They represent a very, very small part of the Latino community.
I beg to disagree.
President Obama has had more deportations. And who was the one that had more before him? President Bush, George Bush. And who was the one before him? President Clinton. Every president has done it, and it's wrong. And it's absolutely wrong. But when you talk about who has been kinder to migrants, there's no comparison. The Republicans came up with Proposition 187, 200, the wall, their hateful rhetoric. What has happened with the Republican Party towards migrants is shameful, and that doesn't represent this country. That doesn't represent this country. I'm independent. The Democrats have many faults as well, but they have been much friendlier towards the migrant community, their terminology and their policies. And we need humane immigration reform. We can't have it blocked all the time by the current Congress right now. President Obama has tried to make changes, and they keep on blocking it because it's President Obama.
Okay, Laura, what is your view on this immigration debate that is taking place right now? There's an estimate that there are 11 million undocumented immigrants. Donald Trump's solution is to deport all of them. Can that happen? I mean, how should America resolve this?
Well, before we move on to that one, I did want to answer, based on the statistics, and this is what we are experts in at NALEO, the Latino vote is absolutely not monolithic. And we know that about 23% of Latinos don't identify with either Republican or Democrats, which means that there's a huge opportunity for both parties to try and go out there and grab those votes. But we really have to do a lot of legwork to get the vote out.
We saw that in the last election, didn't we? Because President Obama got 71%.
Absolutely, and it depends, again, on the issue. So a lot of what's happening right now within the Republican primary, even within the Democratic primary, is that we're not really seeing the views on issues that are key to the Latino community. So immigration is not the only issue that we're looking at. We want to hear about education. We want to hear about healthcare. But what we do know is that during the last election season, Latinos that were polled said that more than 50% of them said that they weren't contacted by either party or organizations to ask them for their vote. So we have a lot of work to do in that regard. In terms of your question on immigration reform and the policies that are being put out there, there's a lot of, the system is broken. The entire immigration system is broken. So the fact is that, of course, Latinos are going to be looking for the candidate that is going to be promoting a comprehensive approach to fixing immigration.
Governor, by 2040, 40 million Latinos will be eligible to vote in the United States. The Latino vote is growing, there's no doubt about that at all. Are you surprised that we've not seen Latinos make more, or have more influence politically in this country?
Well, yes, but we are to be blamed in the sense that we are not participating at the same rate that the other groups are. And that's why I was saying earlier, this should not be a partisan discussion. It should be a discussion about how can the Latino community, which represents such a large portion of the population and growing at a much higher rate than most of the rest of the groups, how can we actually attain that political power that actually should come our way? And the way to do it is to participate. And I agree with Laura in the sense that education is probably the #1 issue in our community, because we know education is the key to getting ahead in life and success. And in any Latino home, our household, the #1 issue that will be instilled in kids will be that you better get a good education, because that's the way to get ahead in life.
I've got a figure here. 94% of Hispanic parents expect their children to go to college. Enrique, I have 1 minute. I'm going to give you a say in this. What are the major issues that you hear from the Latino community where you are?
Well, I think across the country, it's economy, education, healthcare, immigration. So we are like the mainstream America. Immigration might be a little bit higher on our scale of importance than other groups, but we care about this country like anybody else does. We want this country to be a success. We want the president to, we want people to participate in the process. I want to congratulate Laura for the great work that Naleo does. We need to get more people to participate in the process from both sides of the aisle. Be informed, and I'm looking at the Latino community doing more and more of that, and our leaders in this movement is the youth. They have been fantastic. So it's important that we participate in the process.
Okay.
Remember what our parents did for us to get us to this country. Let's pay them back by getting a good education, being good model citizens, and getting out there and voting.
Okay.